Thank you for staying with us on the AM show, and we're delving into the big issues, the topical matters of concern, and we're going to be starting with that big one, which has to do with the University Teachers Association of Ghana embarking on a strike. It starts today. What are going to be the ramifications for teaching and learning in our institutions of higher learning, and what is it going to take basically to resolve the matters? That's the crucial question. This morning we have Dr. Samuel Burt Bwedi Kusi. He is the president of UTAG on the University of Cape Coast campus. And then we also have Austin Game, who is a labor consultant. Gentlemen, thank you for joining the conversation.
Thank you very much.
All right. So I would like to start with snippets of the latest statement from UTAG, just to give us a very good idea what exactly the developments have been. Before the 10th, I remember engaging Professor Ransford Jampo, who gave us some sneak peeks into, what to expect as far as today is concerned. Today has arrived. And at the emergency meeting held on Tuesday and Friday, that is the 4th and 7th of January 2022, respectively, we heard the National Executive Committee of UTAG discussing the worsening conditions of service of university teachers and the failure of the employer in addressing the plight of UTAG members within stipulated timelines. Now, as a matter of urgency, the group has been asking government to restore UTAG to the 2013 bits of 114% of basic salary in the interim, while government goes ahead to formulate guidelines to implement what they call appropriate recommendations to address the conditions of service of the university teacher. So I'll start with you, Dr. Bwedi Kusi. Looking at this, stalemate that we have come to, could it have been avoided? 2013 till now, we've been dilly-dallying, we've had the recommendations, we've not made most of them. Coming to this point, is it because of a lack of will to do the right thing?
Thank you very much, and let me say good morning to your cherished viewers, and good morning to my colleague UTAG members. I think that your question is apt because, you see, we could have avoided this. For me, 2013, it's even pretty far. If you look at the recommendations in 2013, when we started with the white paper, which said that periodically there should be a review so that the market premium or appropriate market premium is determined.
Right.
These surveys were done and were never implemented. But just to fast track it, between August, when we called off our strike after listening to major stakeholders and saying that, look, we are in COVID period. We called off the strike, we're going back to teach so that the students can go home. Between August and now, at the negotiation table, we had said that October, government had said they were going to, in this case, let me use the word employer, not even government. The employer had said they were going to complete this labor market survey by October. At the negotiation table, we said, look, in order not to have a very tight schedule, October was so, because we called off the strike in August. Right. October was so close. So we would want to give an extra timelines of about 3 months up to December, by which time we expect that we would have finished with every details of the labor market survey, its technical reports that accompanies it, so that we know how much we are worth, so that whether we can be restored or we could be upgraded. Between that time and this time, we have written letters. We wrote letters to the fair wages to get a report. It was said that they have received a draft. They were forwarding it to the appropriate quarters for study, and then as soon as they get the green light on implementation, they will go ahead. We waited not until about somewhere last week, after we had threatened the strike, that in a crunch meeting, and that was last week Friday, we were given a copy of the report. And we were just not interested in the report because we had spoken about implementation. And so once we noticed that nothing accompanied the report, and given the fact that there had been this consistent delay, and even in the MOA that we had signed earlier somewhere in August, some monies were even due us before 2021 ended. As we speak, all those things were not met. So it gives a clear indication that there are systemic delays. And so our call is very simple. If for whatever reason you cannot implement or review the market premiums or the entry market premiums within the shortest possible time. Take all the time you want, but whilst you are doing that, restore us to our 2013 levels. And it's a very simple call, so that we don't continue to have these worsening conditions at the expense of taking time to complete all the technicalities that is associated with having to review the interim market premium. So this is where we are.
Right. For you, Mr. Game, what do you think about how this could have been avoided? And I pose a question from the backdrop that you have been in the thick of things all through, especially from 2013 till now. You've seen the industrial actions that have been embarked on. You have seen the legal tussles that have, this has drawn, and all of that. We're back to square one, so to speak, ground zero, where the teachers have had to decide to lay down their tools and not do what we, pay them to do. Do you think this could have been avoided? Why are we back to this point? What is your take?
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, and thank you. Let me be very clear. You see, income and income security for working people has always been of great concern to them. And therefore, anything that would devalue it for them, they do not want to give a listening ear to rate. However, like you rightly said, this is a running battle, and we've gotten to a place where it has to be resolved anyway. And I think that I've really got involved in this matter in recent, if you like, memes, and the UTAG officials, if you like, officers, were ready to give in and listen to the employer at the time to enable them complete whatever arrangements they have. Unfortunately, like the president rightly said, some difficulties made it impossible for implementation. But my way of handling this kind of situation is not to play with it as if delay tactics will help. It will not help. I think that the employer should open up. At this point in time, the solution will be to be transparent and open up in its entirety and tell the union that we are unable to either meet it this way, we will meet it the other way around, or we cannot even afford it at all. The choices are there. Either you are giving it all, you are giving it halfway, or you cannot afford it. Be transparent. Union leaders and people like UTAG are not the type of people who do not understand. They understand. They do know what really the circumstances are. Our economic conditions are very, very rough. And therefore, they are not the type of people who will not like to listen. So the employer should open up for them, because our educational condition will be derailed completely if our compatriots in the school with them will have to return home because of this challenge. That will be very, terrible for government, the employer.
So let me quickly find out from you. You spoke about some alternatives. I mean, if government cannot, or the employer cannot foot the bill, cannot meet the requirements of UTAG and all of that. But in the interim, what would be some of the likely alternatives that government could adopt at a time like this? Of course, we know about the constraints on the public purse. We know about the national budget issues. I mean, government has to deal with so many other things. And we have the Fair Wages Commission in there as well. What are some of the practical alternatives that we could be looking at this juncture?
Well, to be honest with you, negotiation goes with, I have this, I do not have it at all, or I meet what you have. That's, and I wish I'm properly quoted.
Right.
I'm saying that the employer is likely to have it all to give it, and that ends the feuding, or we have half of it, we would like to meet you and let you know, or we don't have it at all. Then you can go into specifics like, all right, if you don't have it now, when will you pay it? Do you think giving you 3 months, 6 months, 1 year will be okay with you? Then you can agree with specific timelines. Look, the union leaders there can read and write. They are the type of people who teach these things. Therefore, the positive assumption is that they know. If they do not even know all, at least they have glimpses of it. So be 100% transparent. It is dangerous for any employer, public or private, not to open up and be 100% transparent with his unions, union leaders, or working people. They really hate that. So if the employer can open up for them and let them know that, look, we cannot afford to pay this because of A, B, C, D. Or we can afford to pay half of it because of A, B, C, D. Or we cannot afford it at all. If you don't have a choice, and the way it's going now, what it means is that the union will have to take an entrenched position and say that, look, until you pay, we are not calling it off. And that is very dangerous for all of us.
Right.
So they should call them immediately to a meeting and open up 100% and let them know what the consequences are if we do A, or we do B, or we do C. They are people who can read and write. They will understand and appreciate the difficulties.
All right. The meetings so far haven't culminated in much. But let me come back to you, Dr. Bwedi Kusi. You are in the thick of things. You're actually experiencing this. And over the years, you state in your communique that your conditions of service have been diminishing over time and all of that. But there's also been the comparison. Some people go as far as calling you university lecturers downright, and I use my words carefully, it is not mine, it is theirs, downright greedy. And this is what they say. They say that even if you look across our sub-region and you compare comparatively to other countries, you are still doing better, getting much better. How do you respond to such people? How do you respond to that?
Thank you very much. I would say that is a completely an uninformed position. Yes, because even as we sit, and I'm sure the labor experts would speak to it. Yes, even though at the negotiation table we try to look at across the globe, and we have done a comparative analysis of what our compatriots in even our neighboring countries and within the African continent, what some of our colleagues are taking. But you see, at negotiations, it's really not about what other countries are paying. It's about what we as a country can do. And that is why, if you check what we have stated over the years as a union, we are not even demanding an increase. We are saying that this is where we started from in 2013. So from 2013 to 2022, if anybody would say that we are asking for too much, then I say that is a completely uninformed position, because we have eroded from 114% of our market premium as we speak to the 50s, the mid 50s. So if my salary has decreased and dwindled to that level, and you tell me that if I'm saying that please restore me so that I can make ends meet, because if I'm to quote or if I'm to show you the salaries of lecturers and even professors who are teaching in our universities, it is completely abysmal. So for anybody to say that we are greedy, it's completely from an uninformed position. They don't know what they are talking about.
How much, and I say this in respect of the $1,600 that has come into question in recent times, how much exactly does a university lecturer at whatever level, if you can do the breakdown for us, get in terms of research allowance, or at least how much are you supposed to get? Can you walk us through that?
Thank you very much. Let me, if you are taking only research allowance, and let me say that for the university professor or for the university lecturer, research allowance is key, because you are promoted based on a certain number of publications. It's not just like in other professions where you work for a certain number of years, you get the years, and then you apply for promotion. So research is key.
Right.
So even if you are taking just the research component, we started with 500 Ghana cedis as at 2018. We went to 1,000 as at 2019. We went to 1,005, and I'm talking about Ghana cedis. And this is woefully inadequate to do any research. Right. And this is an annual payment, not a monthly payment. So the $1,006 that you are talking about, which we recently signed off, even that $1,006 is payable in 2024. You are looking at a graduation of some amount. Last year, that is 2021, government was supposed to pay 2,005 Ghana cedis. Out of that 2,005 Ghana cedis, 1,005 Ghana cedis has been paid. We still have an outstanding 1,000 cedis. And the employer was supposed to have paid last year. It is one of the issues which is outstanding. They pledged to pay by the end of last year. That has not been paid as we speak. Even in spite of all the givings that we gave in and called off the strike and all that, that amount which was supposed to be paid has not been paid.
Right.
This year, we are supposed to graduate from the 2,005 Ghana cedis to approximately 7,000, which a difference of about 6,000 being added to the research component. We are yet to even start the entire process. So basically, the university lecturer is surviving, and that is why if you come to, and it's a major concern to us, if you get to the universities, most of us are into other things. Most people will want to go and do supervision, go on distance teaching and all that, use their weekends, which they would have rested, to go and do all this just to be able to supplement and get something to top up. And it's not too good for our health. We are moving left, right, center. Yes, that is what everybody is doing in Ghana. But if things were better, I'm sure people would have slowed down, because that's great implications for our health. If you check the number of colleagues who are falling down, who are dying, let me put it that way, and the age range and the causes of the death and all that, we have recently done quite a number of studies to look at how the causes of some of these sudden death, and purely related to stress. So we really, and a number of our colleagues who are going on pension, they go home on pittance. So it's a challenge to us as a union, and we cannot, and that is why we are very serious about this whole issue about reviewing our basic salary, reviewing the market premium, so that there could be some consolidation on even our pensions. As we speak, you go home as a university lecturer, yes, even though our GUSS is relatively better, it's still not good enough for our colleagues who are on retirement. I have had the chance to interact with some of our senior citizens who were with the university, and they keep complaining about their pension, and we cannot continue to look on and let people suffer just by some level of delay tactics. No, we think that is unfair to us, and it's a great worry to us.
Mr. Game, now looking at the labor component of this entire discussion, I'm talking about the law specifically. Are there any portions we ought to tweak? Because another aspect that comes to play has to do with the law itself and how it is, per what the union suggests, flouted with impunity. The employer does not honor promises made, even after past consultations and all of that. Are there any measures we ought to put in place in our statute books when it comes to the labor law itself to ensure that moving forward, these things, the employer is bound by these actions? It's not that the employer is not bound, but that it has to do what it says it would in terms of implementation. Where are we missing the plot, and what should we do about it?
Thank you. Look, let's be very honest. You must learn how to dance and not worry about the cloth you are putting on. Sometimes you may be compelled to say that it's your cloth that is worrying you. The law is very clear, and there is nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with the law that we have. The problem is the capability, the skill. Now, if you don't have something, you can't give anything out.
Right.
That is the point. Now, the employer has a responsibility to engage the union leaders.
Right.
If they engage them and they are 100% transparent and bring about sunlight on the thing, nothing should be kept under any dark cover. If you do that, because it's not only about pay per se. By the way, comparison with our neighbors will be the most dangerous thing to do because our economies are not the same.
Right.
We are all having challenges. You know, if you take Nigeria, you want to compare Ghana to Nigeria? What is it?
But just a quick one there, Mr. Game. I remember, for example, there was, I don't recall, but one of our institutions tried recruiting someone, I think, and the person, it was on social media from another country, and the person stated that even in his position in his university, this was how much he was earning, and coming to a supposedly higher position in Ghana and, you know, getting a pittance would not work. So wouldn't you say that being professionals, okay, these people are professionals, and it comes with extensive publications and how many years they have lectured, what titles they bear and all of that. Isn't it only fair that even in considering the fact that the countries are different, there is a certain base, a certain minimum that is expected? When you don't meet those minimums, can people not complain about it or make the comparisons?
Why not? That is something that we all do. But when it comes to situations like this, and people want to do comparison, that is what I meant by saying that we should not, at this point in time, venture into it. I've been in the trenches about negotiations, you know, across board, within and without. And I do know that comparisons can be made, but circumstances and the timing is very important. That's why he rightly said, look, don't try it, because if you try it, we'll run into a ditch. To be honest with you, our situation here with our lecturers, if you like, is as such that we need to be very honest and open and talk about it in a manner that will not run our educational system aground. If they do a lot of work with me also, and I can tell you that they are unhappy. Some of us have pleaded with them, even on our knees, and suggested to them certain things they should do that would enable them go back to school at the time. And they responded positively, and they went back to school. Now they have started again. I want to tell you in very, very transparently that the employer has a responsibility to engage them now. I'm not talking about tomorrow, today, so that they can understand and appreciate the challenges they have, but on condition that they will not be vilified in the public domain the way we have been doing it. They are not, excuse my language, they are not stupid people. They are lecturers. They know what to do, and therefore, if we vilify them in public domain the way we sometimes do, as if they don't know, they will get entrenched, and that will make life very difficult for all of us. Right. Let them be spoken to, and I can tell you on authority that they will listen. They know what to do. If they have to go back to school, they will go. Because if the employer do not have at all, there is nothing absolutely anybody can do. Let me say the last thing.
Right.
Look, the fear is this. They are demanding certain things. They want it negotiated. They want it paid. The fear of the employer sometimes is, if we give it to them, what about their comparators in the same system?
Right.
Will they come after them, the employer? Yes, they will come. And therefore, part of the thing is that, look, we cannot pay it, because if we pay, it means we must pay other people too. All these things should be made clear and put on the table. Because if we are paying people 7% for the year 2022, obviously, and our inflation is X, what it means is that there is a gap. And that's why restoration, the language restoration, is coming in. So we really need to be very, very open in this case and call a meeting urgently of not just the university lecturers after their engagement. Maybe the negotiating committee meeting should be called by the fair wages so that they will engage to prevent people from going in pockets. Let's deal with the thing holistically and see the situation. We are in trouble if we don't know.
Chilling, the way you end there, we're in trouble. if we don't know. I'm sure the employer knows, but it would depend on what we have in the kitty. But very briefly on this one, Dr. Bwedi Kusi. So from your statement, you seem to be a bit intransigent. You will not move, you will not be budged or bothered as far as this situation is concerned. What would it take if you had to meet the employer halfway? What would it take? What would be the minimum you'd look at in picking back your tools up and going back to work? What would it take?
Yeah. Thank you, my brother. As Mr. Game indicated, we have been very reasonable at the table. In fact, if you check the documents we submitted to the employer,
right,
we have even worked out scenarios, different scenarios, because these are the things we do. We have looked at the actuarial implications. We have looked at, done the projections and worked different scenarios and presented to the employer. That look, we know, we are very much aware that looking at the economic situation, there is no way you can pay everything to us. And so we have worked different scenarios and look at if you want to increase it by X, Y, Z, and all that. So we are very open. But I think that the challenge we have as leaders of our union is that we come in, we listen, and then you go back to your members and you have so many things coming up. And especially when the employer does also not meet the timelines, it creates a certain level of distortion and a certain level of integrity crisis for everybody. And so as the labor consultant indicated, if we are very transparent, if we stick to our timelines, then we will not be here. And so for us, it's not an entrenched position at all.
Right.
But one thing that is sure is that if anybody wants to say we want to go to court, we want to do X, Y, Z, I will advise. If we take that option, then we are not ready for a solution, because we haven't created this problem. This problem has been created by the employer, and we have served notices as far back as November. We started asking for implementation of certain things. These things were not done. We are ready to engage any day, anytime, but let us stick to timelines, let us stick to agreements, and let us be progressive. Things that we will do that will not continue to make us worse off, or just to buy time to make us worse off. No, we are very clear in our minds that we will not budge to any of these things.
Mr. Game, thank you so much for your submissions. I know you have to bow out, so would call it a wrap as far as you are concerned. And thank you so much for joining the conversation. But let's now rope in the National Labour Commission, more or less the arbiter or the go-between in this entire situation. And we're joined by Ofosu Ampofo, who also joins the conversation, Executive Secretary of the National Labour Commission. Thank you for joining the conversation, sir. All right, so we'll get to the Executive Secretary shortly, but the situation like we have it has to do with UTAG's strike, which has commenced today, that industrial action. And of course, we know it has left a sour taste in the mouths of many, especially the academic community across the country. The question is, how do we get past this hurdle? It is not something we are not familiar with. We are very familiar with it. But what do we do to ensure that the lecturers can also go back, that they don't have to do the sort of things, back-breaking work, working here, working there, just to make ends meet? How do we cushion our university teachers to ensure that they can also have peace of mind to do their work? In the interim, as we wait for the Executive Secretary of the National Labour Commission, so we have Ofosu Asamoah, actually, who is Executive Secretary of the National Labour Commission, joining the conversation. Good morning, sir.
Yes, good morning.
I was just interacting with Labour consultant Austin Game, and he was just talking about the fact that we are in a precarious situation, and if we don't, do something quickly, rapidly, we're going to face quite a problematic turn. Now, you sort of are the go-between, the arbiter when it comes to all of this fracas or this situation we are facing. Has enough goodwill, and I know I'm throwing quite a question at you, but has enough goodwill been shown our teachers at the tertiary level, at the university level so far? They are on strike again.
Yes, they are on strike again. They have declared this morning. As of last week, I was of the view that things were getting solved because they seem to have agreed on a few things as far back as October and until last week, when one of their very last demands, amongst others, that is the access to the labor survey report, was given to them. So, though there were issues that were handled between them and the Ministry of Education and Finance, I thought that their immediate demand for which they threatened strike was access to the labor survey report, which was given to them. So it's really come as a bit of a surprise when the strike still had to come on today.
But hold on just a second. You're saying you're surprised they've embarked on this industrial action, but from time immemorial, I mean, well, maybe not time immemorial, but for the past how many years? 10 years? It's just been promises. The reports have come, the implementation has not been there. In fact, they cite that their benefits, their allowances have reduced over time. And last year, at the tail end of last year, action was supposed to be taken to forestall this. That action did not see the light of day. Are you saying in the mix of all of these, they do not have justification, for some justification at least, for putting their tools down?
I am not talking about justification, whether it's justified or not.
Right.
I am not talking about that. What I am saying is, you go to the table and say, I want to go on strike because I haven't got access to this. Because my book and research allowance has not been reviewed over this period because of A, B, C, and D. So that if you are able to do this for me, I'll hold on with the strike, while amongst others, so that the others will be attended to. Then the preliminary ones, upon which you place or tie your strike to, is satisfied, whilst waiting for the others to be dealt with. And then you proceed on strike. That is where my surprise is. But as for the justification or otherwise, it is not for me to say at this time. It is the commission who will look at it.
Right. And so they have already embarked on the strike. Moving forward, at least from their end, what are some of the things that you feel could be done so that very rapidly we can do away with this situation and maybe the teachers can return? I mean, what has been discussed so far from your end between the two parties?
This morning, as I talk to you, I'm on my way to the office. I'm in touch with the ministry. When I get to the office, I'm going to talk to the chairman of the commission and this thing, and then we'll do them for it. But certainly, it calls for settlement.
What was the last statement you made? You're saying it calls for settlement. Is that what you said?
It calls for settlement. Once there's a strike, it means there's an issue. And if there's an issue, it must be settled between the parties. So that is what we proceed to do.
All right. So I just want you to practically, I mean, you are at the helm of affairs. At least you are in there. You know, over the years, these situations have cropped up. What are some of the likely remedies we can have in an instance like this?
When parties are unable to agree, we bring in a mediator or we subject to arbitration. So, one of these forms of settlement.
Right. Well, Ofosu Asamoah, thank you so much for joining the conversation. We'll look forward to interacting with you later to find out what emanates after your interactions with the head of the National Labour Commission. But let me come back to you, Dr. Boedi Kusi. Do we still have you? Do we still have Dr. Boedi Kusi on?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So to wrap this conversation, you've heard from the Executive Secretary of the National Labour Commission. Of course, Austin Game also shared his thoughts earlier. Moving forward, what are your expectations? What are you hoping to see today, maybe, and moving forward in the course of the week to ensure that you can also have some confidence in the process and reach out to your members to maybe return? Because for now it's indefinite, but what are some of the things that would trigger maybe a reversal of this industrial action?
Yeah, thank you very much. Before I move there, let me just correct an impression. The impression is that we were only interested in the labor market survey, and once we have it, that should be it. I think that is a wrong one. I think that the NLC boss should look at it again. we had requested for the labor market survey to enable us determine our next line of action. And again, if you check in the MOA that was signed, in fact, at the table, as I indicated, the labor market survey was supposed to be completed in October. We gave a leeway, about 3 months in addition, so that all the nitty-gritties could be ironed out. That did not happen. Now we only have the labor market survey without any technical reports that goes with it to say that, well, you are going to benefit at XYZ premium and all that. So we are clear in our minds on these things. So the emphasis should not just be the basic premise on which you want to go on strike has been given to you, and that is it. I think that is a wrong approach to the conversation. But as we said, we are open to dialoguing, and we have always said that we are really not interested in going on strike. No, that is not what we dream of, because at the end of the day, it's a deferred work. We'll come back and we'll have to do the same work which we have deferred.
Right.
And so we are looking for a quick resolution. And therefore, my plea to the employer will be that let us quickly rally around and have an honest conversation with the challenges that has arisen out as even after we signed the previous MOA, why we still have outstanding payments to be made, even though those payments were supposed to have been done before 2021 ended. If we're able to be very transparent and honest about these things, I'm sure that minds will come to the table and we will be able to have a quick resolution to this. And I'm sure once the national leadership is convinced about whatever has been said around the table, we are ready and willing to return to work. But the most important thing is that we must be really honest with ourselves and make sure that whatever timelines we commit ourselves to, we abide by them. So for me, that is a way forward.
I'm happy that you say you are willing to return to work, but two things I take away: transparency and honesty. That's what you say you are looking forward to, and without those, that will not happen. Thank you so much, Dr. Bwedi Kusi, for joining the conversation.
Thank you very much for having me.
So those who joined us on this leg of the conversation, our big story is the first one we've started with. It has to do with the UTAG strike starting today. And you just heard Dr. Samuel Bert Bwedi Kusi, UCC UTAG president. We had Austin Game, a labor consultant, and we also interacted with the executive secretary of the National Labor Commission in the person of Ofosu Asamoah.